All right, folks, good evening. It's a couple minutes after 6 o'clock. We have a quorum. I always say the key to ending a meeting on time is starting on time, so let's get this thing rolling. Why is this out of order? Okay.
You know, I had the last meeting and I was exhausted
Trying
to push it down.
I would like to thank you, Mr. Brennan, for taking care of the business while I'm away.
kidding.
I appreciate your
It was a
effort.
pleasure. They were very nice to me, everybody. I think I got breaks.
I've heard all good things.
at the last
Okay, we
meeting,
gotta
I heard
get on the
somebody
microphone
sure.
or I get yelled at. Okay,
It's crazy.
opening items. We'll do roll call right now.
Committee member Shane Smith.
Here.
Tom Brenneman. Sue Lester. Phil Marsh. Monty Fields. Mike McElroy. Jana Oak. Elodie Katz. Andrew Nielsen. Albert Graham Jr.
Here.
Chair Mike Carey.
Here.
Thank you.
Present. Thank you, Nilani. Okay, call to order, roll call. At this time, we'd like to open it up to public comments for anybody that would like to address anything that's not on the agenda. Is there any written communication? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there are written public comments that we received this afternoon, and they have been presented to the committee for your review.
I have read it before the meeting started, and while others are reading it, I just wanted to say, I'd like to see the staff, I'm sure who has read it and combed through it, give us what they see about it first before we start dealing with other comments. Does that make sense?
Sure, I think so. I believe. Yeah.
So I believe the only item that we would be addressing right now or looking at would be item B1 from the written comments that are items that are not on the agenda. It looks like the rest of the items in this document are currently agendized. Okay, seeing that, right, we will move on to,
Before we move, can we receive some public comments from Scott?
Sure. Is there any specifically you want me to comment on, or just?
No, I was just would like to know what your feelings are about B1.
My feelings are just, it's a public comments period from a resident that receives a wastewater collection service from the district, Mr. Jim Mosier, who's a regular resident that participates in a lot of our meetings, and those are his comments. I think he just wanted the community to be aware of what's going on in the district. I think most of you probably have seen what those articles in the paper. If not, I can comment a little bit more on it, but I can't comment too much because the investigation is ongoing right now. But as far as it's his constitutional right to do that.
That causes you to have concern?
No, not at all. No concerns at all. No, he's doing his constitutional right to voice his opinion and comments. It's not. I have no problem with that at all. No.
Did you say Mosier is the one that wrote this?
Yes, Mr. Jim Mosier. Yes.
I'd like to personally thank Mr. Moser for his ongoing comments and support of the district and of this committee. It's
He gives good.
refreshing to
Yeah,
have
agreed.
community input.
Agreed. He actually a lot of times he gives really good suggestions and catches stuff that we miss.
Right.
He's very intuitive, and so no, he's great to have.
Do you know his background?
I really don't know.
A citizen that has good ideas.
He's a Newport Beach resident, so he's heavily involved in Newport Beach politics. So he goes to all the council meetings, he goes to all the community. That's why he can't be here today, I think, because he's got another community meeting to go to at Newport Beach. So he is very involved in Newport Beach, and he's very involved with us, and we're glad to have him. Excuse me?
Does this district cover his
Yes, on the wastewater side, but not trash. So we provide wastewater for his home.
Does CR&R cover Newport?
It does, yeah, they do, on a separate contract, yes.
They
With
cover
Newport
his
Beach.
house?
Yes, yes, they do.
How do you set, and this is just a question of, how do you set the fee for his service versus anybody else within Newport, within Costa Mesa?
Well,
CR&R.
as far as the wastewater collection service, it's the same as we charge him, the same as we charge Costa Mesa resident, a single-family household, so it's the same rate.
So it's not set by distance from the.
No, no, not at all, not at all. Yeah, no.
What sets the rate?
Well, we're kind of getting away from the agenda here. If you want me to bring that back to you, I can talk about how we establish rates on the wastewater side. There is a study that was done. We did it about 5 years ago. It's on our website, on the wastewater page. That kind of explains you how we calculate. It's the assumptions we use to create the rates.
And then I take it without even reading it, that it's set up in such a way that when this board adopts, I assume it's the city council adopts it, that it's appropriate to have that kind of a bill or debt to run that program, and the city council approves it,
The board of directors approve it. Yes,
and the board recommends.
yes,
that.
yes. Correct,
Okay.
correct.
Yeah, let's move on through our agenda. I think the next item on the agenda is to receive and file the.
No, Mr. Chairman, we want to make one correction. Unfortunately, we apologize. We don't have the committee's minutes from last meeting. We apologize for that. There's no consent items here. Item number one is really just for your information. The committee wanted to keep abreast of what's going on with the board of directors. So these are draft minutes from their September 20th meeting. Your September CAC meeting minutes, and again, I apologize, will be on your November agenda for approval.
That's fine. So these minutes from the September 20th board meeting are just information only. and
Here's what they
receive and
did. Here's what
file.
they decided on. Yes, correct.
Perfect. Get through all of the.
Was there anything to note, Mr. Kelly, that you wanted to point out from that meeting?
So let me try to kind of refresh my memory on that meeting. Let me pull it up.
If I have a comment on the board of directors minutes, should I make that now or should I just wait until the end when it's my turn to comment?
It's the item's up right now, so if you have some comments on it, sure. To address, if you might, I'll address Committee Nelson's comments. One item the board did direct is revising our fats, oil, and grease program, and that was, we had a discussion with them on a study session with some recommended changes to the policies and the ordinance. The board at the September board meeting directed us to come back with those revisions, which we will. They were really to tighten up the regulations and the policies to ensure that all the restaurants in the community are complying with this program. So that was significant.
There was no concerns of the FOG program from the residential community, or
Well, the FOG program is for the businesses. So, they're, as part of their rates, there is a fee in the commercial rates that funds this program. And so, when we identify a restaurant that accumulates grease, they have to go for the plan check review with us and ensure they have a grease interceptor installed. And that grease interceptor has to follow best management practices. And that's what EEC, our consultant, that goes in and makes sure that they're complying with those BMPs. When we're cleaning our hotspots and our sewers, if we see a lot of grease accumulated in the area, then we'll address it and try to find the source of the restaurant, and then we'll go and remind them, hey, we're finding a lot of grease. We need you to comply with this policy. We've never fined a restaurant for not complying with. We're always trying to. The board has already taken a position of being business friendly, and so we want to give them several opportunities to comply. And usually, once we approach them, they will comply.
That's obvious anyway.
Excuse me?
That's object anyway.
Correct, correct. So, I think that's the most significant. It was a kind of light agenda, but that was probably the most significant action taken by the board. So, Committee Member Lester, you wanted some comments on the minutes?
Yeah, I'm trying to scroll down to where it is. I don't know where it is. It was at the end of the board minutes. I don't have an iPad, so this is just not cooperating with me. But it basically just referred to where President Schaefer commented on my exchange with Secretary Schaefer at the last CAC meeting.
Yes.
But it didn't really elaborate to what he said, so I looked it up. I watched it on
Yeah.
video.
Okay.
And I wrote it word for word.
Okay.
And I want to share it with everyone here. Basically, it says, I'm going to make, this is from President Schaefer, it says, question. I'm going to make sure I attend, if I can, and just remind the CAC that we're looking for their advice and looking to them to look at programs. This interaction that happened between one of the members, and it was me, he didn't say my name, but it was me. One of the members and Secretary Schaefer was totally uncalled for. I wasn't there, but I got a report on what happened. I think we just need to remind them that they are an advisory committee and we are not going to rubber stamp everything they recommend as policy. That's our job to do, and I will be at the meeting to make a few comments. I know they're unhappy about our decision with the district voting, but ultimately it's our responsibility based on our constituents elected us, not them, so I'll be there to make those comments. Okay, I just want to say, for the record, that I looked back and watched the video, and you guys were, most of you were here, Mike wasn't here. I didn't think anything that I asked was uncalled for. I'm really actually disappointed that Secretary Schaefer and President Schaefer aren't here, because I'd like to just, clear the air on the whole thing and move on. But, what I would like the board to remember is that we are the constituents. And based on what was said at the State of the District, by President Schaefer, it said that the CAC's job is to promote citizen engagement, discuss key issues, policies, programs, and provide the board of directors with some recommended ideas and give them input on, quote, what we see the future of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District being all about. And so I think my questions relating to asking a board member if they would consider term limits applies to that. So I just wanted to kind of get that on the record. I was prepared to apologize to Secretary Schaefer if I made her uncomfortable in any way, but I didn't think that I was rude, and if I came off that way to any of you, I certainly want to apologize, but like I said, I went back and I watched the video, and I'm not sure what he was referring to in his, and it didn't say in the board minutes, but it's on the video.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I basically didn't defend myself. So that's it.
No worries. Just FYI, our minutes aren't verbatim, so I'm glad you went to the video. That's why we do the videos, so we don't. So I'm glad you went to that. So that's good. So.
Can I just add, because I was at the last minute, or the last meeting rather, I think it's important that we're a new body and we're still learning how we best present our ideas. And I do think, we were coming off of a recommendation for the first important issue that they gave to us, and maybe some of us felt that we wish they had adopted our recommendation, but the board members are the elected people, and they obviously have that power. So I think maybe we can be a bit more discreet in saying we agree that that's something we want to discuss, and then we can submit that as one of our recommendations, as opposed to talking directly to one individual board member who may feel defensive. And I'm not saying, Sue, that you did anything wrong, but if we feel like something about the board's elected rules could be changing, that's a somewhat sensitive topic, and maybe we can present it after a bit more discussion and see if we're unanimous about it before we maybe address it directly to a board member in the future.
Agreed. No, I agree, and I appreciate the feedback. And I think my question probably was coming from a place of frustration, only because I Well,
Lisa,
no,
so that's
but
why.
herself, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I did put her on the spot. I wasn't trying to make her uncomfortable, which obviously I did. And I'm sorry that I made her uncomfortable, but I'm not sorry for what I asked. But I hear what you say, and I will take all that into consideration for sure, because you have made some valid points. So thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on.
Okay.
Anything else about the Board of Directors meeting? No, hearing nothing. We'll move along to something else I wasn't here for, a follow-up question from the September 12th CAC meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So at the last month meeting, a question was asked about the traffic that we're experiencing, the metrics that we have for the website. And we didn't know that off the top of the head, so this is the information that the committee requested. So happy to answer any questions.
Looking over this, I was very impressed with the numbers and the traffic that you guys get from the website and the level of detail that you're.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I am too. Yes.
I think, and again, we can maybe talk about this as a future agenda item. We were wondering if even driving more traffic and prompting people to do certain actions online could, in the long term, save you guys money.
Yeah.
From that perspective. So I think that's something that could just kind of be on the continual
Okay.
role of potential communities.
Definitely. Awesome.
All right, any other comments about this agenda item? Great, hearing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item, the CR&R performance review.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as you know, CR&R Environmental Services, they're our trash contractor. They're the ones that picks up our recyclables and trash. And every year, staff evaluates their performance. We basically go through their contract, line item by line item, to see if they're in compliance. And so what I'm going to go with you tonight is some of the key points of the evaluation. More details is in the attachments by Mike Baye consulting firm. He's an expert in the solid waste industry, and we asked him to review all the 26 items in the contract to make sure they're in compliance. And if you open the attachment, he does state that CNR is in compliance with all 26 areas in the contract. So some of the issues, some of the highlights I'd like to focus on for tonight is first is the cost, which is obviously very important. And the way we determine if we're competitive is called the rate hauler, net rate hauler cost. And what that is the true cost to provide the service. It excludes any overhead. So for us, for example, our expenses are taken out. So what is the true cost to provide that services? What would the rate be to provide that? And so the board has established a benchmark that they want that net hauler rate, the CMSD's net hauler rate, to be within 10% of the county's average. So Mike Baye will contact all the cities in the county and find out what their net to hauler rate is, and then they average it out, and then you add a 10% to that average. In this case, the average was $17 was the average. Then you add plus 10% to the maximum. For a maximum rate allowed is $18.70. So if we're below that $18.70, then we're in compliance with the board's goal of being within that 10%. And as you see in the staff report, we are at $17.88 is our net to hauler rate. So we've always been in compliance, and I do believe this does excludes the organics. We take the organics out because there's only a couple of cities that have the organics recycling program. I think San Clemente's one, and Laguna Niguel might be the other one. There's only a couple of cities in Orange County that have implemented the program. So we want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples.
Now, when you're saying 1788, you're referring to each time that truck comes to a house and picks up the trash. That's 1788.
$17.80 a month. A month, yes.
You get 4, basically.
Yes, yeah, right. For $17.80 a month, that's what it costs us. Yes, a month. Correct. And then we also talked about schedule control. I think the one call that we get the most is missed trash pickup. It's probably the most. As you see in your staff report, we had actually 76 people use our Gov Outreach. You know, they'll text it, say, hey, my trash was missed for some reason. And so we do a very diligent job of contacting CNR and saying, hey, this address was missed. You need to go back and pick it up. and they will do that. They'll go back and pick it up.
They missed my house one time, I don't know how, and I called them and they were on it.
Yep.
I mean, a few hours later, but it's the same day.
Yeah.
So I was impressed and happy that they
Good.
were so good about it.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Glad to hear that. Yeah, so we had 76 people that used the Gov Outreach, and another 46 people called in. Now, some of those people that called in might have also used Gov Outreach, and that might seem like a lot of, but if you put it in perspective, we service over 22,000 households. That's less than 1%. So it's not bad, but we still want that number down. We're still working with them, so.
A lot of those were my calls, probably. I missed organics, Cart.
Interesting, and and we always try to find out what happened. Why did you miss the cart? And sometimes they'll say maybe the cart was too close to a car, and they would fear damaging the car. Honestly, sometimes people forget to put their carts out, and trucks already went by, so they put it out. But we go back and pick it up. We'll go back and pick it up.
They forgot to put it out, and then they call and say that we missed it.
Yeah. Well, we'll go back and pick it up. That's fine. We'll go.
No, they've always been great.
Because they still have to
I live
pay.
next to a
Yeah.
corner.
They're still paying for it
It
anyways.
lives on the
Yeah.
corner. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? You said there were 76 missed according to the Gov Outreach and then 46 calls.
Yes.
But then it says staff believes that actual number is much higher, and anecdotally, myself included, we've all apparently experienced this, which would probably mean it's in the hundreds, if not the thousands. So why is there a disconnect there between what you believe the actual number is and
Because we don't know how many calls went in the CR&R. So some people might call them directly.
gotcha?
So that's where and so we don't know how accurate that number is, and so that's why we think it might be higher.
Based on your address, CNR just says, oh yeah, that's our contract, and they just come out and do it?
Each resident has a designated phone number to CR&R, so when you call in, they know where it's at.
Is that the one on the trash can itself?
Yes.
So that number's CRNR, not
Yeah.
Postmates.
Correct. I believe it is. Do you remember what the number is? If it's 8400, then it's our number.
It says sanitary district on the trash can.
Is it-
It's CR&R's number.
Okay, because is it 645-8400? That's our number.
Does CRNR provide that number to you guys?
They do, but again, we don't know how accurate it is because we don't have their access to their database. So they'll tell us a number.
But is that a metric or performance metric that you hold them to when, negotiating or?
We do, yeah. In our last negotiations, we were saying, we had a lot of missed pickups, and so, you can be the judge how successful that was used in negotiations. But I could tell you one particular year, Christmas fell on a Sunday, and so everyone thought automatically there was no trash pickup the following day. Well, that's not true. They did pick it up. So there's a whole miscommunication between us and CRNR, and that was when I was on vacation and Alani was acting. And all I could tell you, it was a long day, a lot of it, right? And and they said, well, it happens once every 7 years. Well, okay, well, fine, that's once every 7 years, but still, it's not acceptable, right? And so that was one time we knew that the complaint was a lot. This past year, again, like I said. We believe it's higher than what we reported. We just can't substantiate it. So.
Should we send a letter to Santa Claus, tell him to take all of his wrapping with him when he goes?
Good suggestion. Let's see. So under let's see, contract administration, CNR does send us month-end reports. Like we need to know what the weight tickets are, the occupancy reports. We obviously, as we said in the staff report, there has been some inconsistency as far as the actual amount billed, but the good news is that we're underbilling them, not overbilling them, and that seems to be fine with CNR. $600, underbilling $600 at a $4.5 million contract. Okay, they're not going to lose any sleep over that. So as long as underbill instead of overbill, we're fine with that. Under responsive to government, they are very active in the community. They do participate in a lot of events. Most recently, they participated in the second annual truck adventure for kids. I don't know if you saw that at Orange County Fair. Responded, you on that? No. Yeah, our trucks go there, our wastewater trucks are there, and the first year we were there, we saw Waste Management was there, and we said, well, why aren't you guys there? CNR there, and so we gave them the guilt trip, and so they were there, and it was very successful. The kids loved it. Also, the good news is this past year under the Christmas tree recycling, they only had 4 missed collections, which is awesome. I know one year we had a lot of missed collections, and but after numerous complaints from us, they seem to got their act together on that. I think that's about it. I'll have to report on that. Again, we always strive to make sure everything is satisfactory in the performance evaluation, and everything became satisfactory. We rarely do excellent, because excellent means they exceed what they're required. So they don't exceed. They meet the satisfactory. So that's why we're fine with satisfactory. And so if you have no comments or suggestions, we will present this to our board next month.
I did note under the responsiveness to government that there seems to be challenges scheduling tours on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, that is true. There was, thank you for bringing that. That's a little bit of a frustration part on us. I don't know why they were pushing back for 2 of the MRFs, because we thought that was very important for residents to learn how their recyclables are being recycled, especially when we co-mingled everything. It might have been a safety issue for them. We're glad to, I think we mentioned this a month ago, that we did add the anaerobic digestion facility on the SEPA. This was the first year they did it, and it was a huge success. So we're very excited they allowed us to do that, and they'll continue to allow us to do that.
Right.
So that was fantastic. So yeah, they're coming around. I think also an issue is just space. I think we went to the first time. Their conference room was really small and it was tight, and I think we only had like 15 people. If we had 25 people going to SEPA, I don't think they could have accommodated us. So that was, I think, another concern they had. But I know they do tours for schools, so it was kind of shocked when we were getting such a pushback from them. But I think they're coming around now, so it shouldn't be an issue in the future.
So is staff looking for a motion to forward this to the board? Or is just...
Let's see. It's just the voting results. If you have any comments, I can pass it on to the board. It's just for your FYI.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Carroll. Okay, next up on the agenda is...
I had a couple questions.
I apologize, Ellie.
Yes.
Just a few things. The net to hauler rate, I was looking through Mike's report and or Mr. Ballier, and it seemed like Newport Beach's rate was significantly lower, like $13. And I was just picking Newport Beach as an example, but is there any way to kind of understand why would be so much lower?
You know, that's a good question, and it comes up a lot. That would require a special agendized item, because there's a lot of issues with that, and I can explain it to you, but I think it'd be best if you want, I could bring that on the agenda for next time and explain the difference for that. Okay, we'll do that. Yes.
And my other question was on the diversion rate. I know they met way above the 50%, but is there any information about what actually went into the landfill, like any missed opportunities for things that could have been recycled? You know, I just know I was starting to read up on it, and I guess China's becoming China is one of the largest purchasers of recycled goods, and I guess they're starting to get a lot more choosy about what types of things they're purchasing. And I was just curious if
Stopped. That Green Sword, I think they're no longer.
Well, the issue with China is they're the biggest buyers of cardboard, but they want to clean cardboard, and they were getting a lot of like pizza stains on the cardboard or like stained cardboard, and they're saying enough's enough, right? Which makes sense. That was the whole issue with China. You know, that's a good question. I'll have to follow up with CRNR and my staff to see if there's any opportunities with others we can cycle, but I can't think of anything off the top of my head. But we'll follow up with that. Thank you.
I think it's a large challenge, too, as the state's moving towards a 75% diversion rate, and we're perilously close to the...
Yes, trying to get there ourselves.
Right.
Yes, definitely.
Are there any other comments regarding this agenda item? No? Seeing none, we'll move to, I'm interested in this, the door-to-door household hazardous waste program.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this is a program we implemented a few years back for disabled and senior residents who have accumulated household hazardous waste, which is like automobile oil, antifreeze, latex paint, pesticides, before you'd have to take seniors or someone disabled had to take it always to Huntington Beach, which is quite a bit drive. I drove here from Huntington Beach where this, and it was a good drive. So we implemented a program for the seniors and disabled a few years back that CR&R will come and pick up those materials at your home. Well, now through our new contract with CNR that we negotiated, we expanded that to all residents, and that's residents that are participating in the program. So if you are our customers, if you have the carts, then you're eligible for this program. And basically what it goes, you can get up to 3 pickups a year, up to 15 pounds per pickup, or 125, I think, is it 15 pounds per pickup or 125 pounds total, which is quite a bit. And basically all you do is you call them up, you kind of let them know what materials you want to dispose of. They tell you a proper way of storing it. Somebody might be like a cardboard box, maybe lined with plastic so they don't want anything leaking. And you just sit out in front of your porch and they come out and pick it up the day they schedule it. It's a really easy way of disposing it. Yes?
I just have a suggestion, because most people don't realize that if they live in an apartment,
Yes.
that they're not a Costa Mesa Sanitary District customer. I would suggest, instead of it saying available to all CMSD residents, because I live in an apartment, but I'm still a district resident.
Yes.
I would recommend that you change that word to either customers or ratepayers. I know somebody had a problem with that before, but to just put available to all residents implies if you live in the district, you might be eligible.
Yes.
And I don't want, for the one person who might call and scream at you.
No, that's a good comment. In fact, Mr. Mosher made the same comments on his comments. So we will duly noted. We will make aware that the program is just for people participating in the curbside collection program. Perfect. Yes, yes.
That's a good suggestion.
Yes, it very is. In your staff report, you can see the materials that can be collected. Also, like I said, it's so far. I think this is since end of September. We have 64 collections. Hopefully that number will go up. We just have to. I know when we use our newsletter and we advertise programs, we see a big spike in participation. So we're hoping that'll go up. But really excited about this program. I don't know of any other. I'm trying to think of Newport. See, I don't know if Newport Beach has this or not. I'll have to look into that. I know in my city in Orange, we don't have no program. CNR provides trash collection for us, but we don't have this program. So I have to take my household hazardous waste to Anaheim, go on the 91 freeway. So it's a good program. So if you have some, I encourage you to, if you are a curbside customer, I would encourage you to participate in the program and tell your friends about it.
I really like this program. I have to admit, I'm kind of surprised about the low numbers of pickups or residents requesting pickups, and I guess I would attribute that to it being historically for seniors and disabled.
Yes.
Since it's only been effective since July 1st, you probably don't have that much data to determine increases so far since you've opened the program.
If you think about it, it's based on fiscal year, so we're into what July, August, September, 3 months already. 3 months in the year, and we already got 64. So we surpassed it all of last year already, and only in 3 months. So if you take it, if it's at 60 per every quarter, 120 to maybe 280, 300 maybe collections, which would be a big difference.
What's the vehicle or staff member from CR&R? What does that look like? Are they in just a truck or?
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. I could find that out. It's not your regular truck you see in the street that picks up the carts. I think it's a truck with a door that swings open in the back, and they load it up in that way.
I'm assuming they try to group pickups.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for more efficiency, they're going to schedule their collections closely by, so they don't have to go from one area to all the way to the other side of the town. So, yes.
And I apologize, you might not have this information readily available, but do you know the lead time for pickups or how it's been?
No, I don't. I can find that out.
I don't mean to put you on the spot.
No,
we
could find that out. I'll report that back for your next meeting. I don't know off the top of my head.
You know if Ms. it's not a lot of traffic to pick up, they call the day before, there's no reason why they couldn't even be the next day.
Yeah, it depends on the. I agree. I would probably.
If you're loaded, but if you're not loaded, and if you're loaded, I think he could say to the resident, it's a little late that we're getting this, but we tried to accommodate, but we just got too much for this day already on schedule, but we can certainly do it for next week or whatever. And I think that, I bet in many cases you can do it the next day. If the next day is a scheduled pickup day, you may not have enough in the queue to create a problem.
Yes. Yeah, it's a good point. It depends on their schedule. If they're already booked for tomorrow, the next day, then they might do it the following day, or they might do it next week. Yeah, I know, like your large item collections, they schedule that the day of your collection. So if you, let's say your regular collection is on a Tuesday, and you call in on a Wednesday, then you put your materials out the day your trash carts are put out.
Also, was there an increased cost to the district for opening that up to all of the residents?
No, there wasn't. No, there
that's
wasn't.
good.
Yeah,
That's a
that's
great
great.
win.
Yes, it was a huge win for us.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this agenda item?
That might be something you want to add going forward to your performance management program, because I know on there you have like trash cart replacement, and you have missed trash pickup,
Yes.
and all that kind of stuff. Since this is a new service that you're offering and you're opening up to everybody, you might want to, I don't know, if it would be useful to include that in your performance measures.
The
How many, like, what the turnaround is for those
Oh,
type of
yeah.
pickups.
It's a good idea. Absolutely. Yeah, it's a good efficiency measure. Yes. Thank you. That's real good. Yes.
Yeah, thank you to staff and the board for bringing this item forward. It's a
My pleasure.
great addition to the community. Any other comments regarding door-to-door HHW? No? Okay, this is a big item, right? The performance measurement.
This one, I do have a PowerPoint presentation for you. So thank you. I'm here to present to you our new performance measurement program. And so you're probably asking, what is that? Well, if you basically, oh, there we go. Oops. Okay. So the performance measurement is based on the famous 3 questions. Have you ever heard of Simon Sinek? Simon Sinek, he got really popular in 2010 with the TED Talks, and he came up with this philosophy that great leaders always ask the question why first. And his TED Talk is like the most watched TED Talk ever. I think they have like over 4 million views. And so his thinking was great leaders start from within and go work their way out. So he said, like, most people know what they do. A lot of people know how they do it, but do they know why they do it? So some performance measurement asks those 3 questions. Why do you believe what you do? How do you do what you do, and what do you do? And so when you ask the question why use performance measurement, it's basically a tool to communicate to the public and to the elected officials and to your staff how well you're performing. Right? Organizations, you hear that organizations were the most efficient or the most effective organizations in California. Well, how do you know that? How do you prove that to your constituents that you are performing effectively and you're performing efficiently? It's also a tool to improve. My philosophy, and my staff hears this all the time, is that you always hear that saying, if it's not broke, why break it? Well, I say if it's not broke, you break it. Because there's always a better way of doing things, continual improvements, and this is a good way of showing where we're not meeting our objectives and how do we do better. And finally, it demonstrates open government. A lot of governments do not want to tell you the bad news. They don't want to say, "Hey, we're not performing well," because it's risky for them. They're going to get criticized by the public. And I know plenty of general managers that tell me, "I want to fly under the radar. I just want to do my job and fly under the radar." Because they don't want to be criticized. And my answer to you is, well, then you're in the wrong business. That's what government's about. You need to have engaged with your residents, and you got to take the heat if you're not performing well. If you're not performing, then you got to come up with ways of how you're going to improve. So performance measurement is a tool to continue improving. Kind of went too far, so that's why I was saying why we use it. And then you ask the question, how? How do you know the organization is performing efficiently and effectively? Well, you can say, well, expenditures are under budget. Well, does that really mean you're performing effectively? Probably not. It just means you're not spending money, right? If you're saying, hey, I issue 100 permits a year, does that mean you're being effective? Probably not. Just saying you're busy, right? Or you're taking a lot of calls. Just saying you're telling you're busy. So there's ways to demonstrate using performance measurements that if you're under budget, you are being efficient. And then, like I said, what is it? As this is defined as a regular measurement of outcomes and results which generate reliable data on the effectiveness and efficiency of the program. So basically, what performance measurement does is it asks you the right questions. Are we performing better this year than last year? I mean, that's you want to know that, right? Why would you want to stay status quo every year? Don't you want to improve every year? Don't you want to know how you did last year? Do you want to improve? And then, how do you know you're doing a good job? As I mentioned earlier, we said we do good, but to earn that public's trust, you got to demonstrate to them how well you're doing. How can we improve our performance? I talked about that. How are we being efficient? Are we providing excellent customer service? I mean, these are all helpful questions that performance measurements can help answer. So what are the benefits? As I mentioned earlier, it improves communications internally and externally. It helps with staff knowing how they're performing and what they can do better. It helps. It also gives us an opportunity to brainstorm, come up with ideas, fresh ideas. Hey, this is not working. Let's try it this way. Let's see if this works. It definitely improves communication with the public. It tells the public where we're doing well, what we're not doing well. It reflects citizens' demands for evidence of program effectiveness, right? And it also justifies programs and their cost. The public, as you know, as you're members of the public, demands that we are spending your money wisely. You want to know that. You want to know if we're spending it effectively. So how do you know that we're doing that? Performance measurements can tell you that. Ultimately, as I said, it builds public trust. Because what I really like is this next slide from it's from the Public Management magazine, and it says, if you take performance plus accountability plus transparency plus engagement, that equals trust. And I think that's very true. So what is not? It's not a way to reprimand my staff. Okay, so if we don't hit our objective, my staff's not going to get in trouble. Because what does that do? If my staff says I'm not meeting my target, what are they going to do? They're gonna fudge the numbers, right? The data might not be accurate because they don't want to be reprimanded. So you can't do that. You can't reprimand your staff if they don't meet the benchmark. That's okay. But the idea is, okay, we didn't meet it. What are we going to do to improve it? What are we going to do differently so we can hit that mark? Obviously, it's not easy. It takes a lot of meetings. It takes a lot of brainstorming, a lot of analysis. It's a lot of work. It really is. And I think that's why a lot of agencies don't do it, because it's just a lot of work. And we're already inundated. My staff can tell you they're inundated already. Now I'm making them do this. But it's not easy. And I said it's intended not to address every equity measure, which I call widgets. And I've seen this in other organizations, cities, where they'll measure everything under the sun. And that just makes morale. The morale just goes down the tube, because it's just so much gathering, so much data and so much analysis. And I said, we're not going to do that. We're just going to measure what's important. So let me go real quick. The type of measures. The first one are inputs, and that's just resources that are put into processes in order to achieve an output, such as labor, capital, equipment, and raw materials. An example I have in here is like operation and maintenance expenditures for wastewater systems, hours paid to wastewater maintenance workers. Those are input measures. Output measures is basically just your workload. It just tells you how busy you are. That's really what it does. It's calculations, recording, tabulations of the results of an activity, effort, or process that can be expressed in numbers. Number of phone calls, number of engagements. It just tells you how busy you are, right? And then efficiencies, that's a relationship between resources used and services produced, cost per mile of wastewater pipes cleaned, expenditures per code violation case. Those are efficiency measures. And then finally, the one that we're going to be really focusing on, we will use efficiency in output measures, but the most of what we're going to be focusing on are outcomes. That's the gauge, the quality of service, and the extent to which the objective is being achieved. Citizens' customer satisfaction ratings, percent of sewage spill reach surface waters. These are the measures that we want to demonstrate to the public that we are being effective and efficient. So this is the performance measurement team. So we got together periodically and we developed the measures. This is the team that will analyze the data and will keep updated the measures. The objective is pretty simple, and that is to develop performance measures, outcomes that are meaningful. And the data has to be defendable. So if you're going to question us, how did you come up with that data, we can defend it. This is how we came up with it, and this is why. The measure has to be short, concise, and easy to read. And that was important to me because I've seen organizations that have measurements, and they're like, I kid you not, they're like 200-300 pages long. And it's all a bunch of it's either a bunch of narrative, it'll put you to sleep if you read it, or it's just a bunch of data, you have no idea what it means, right? So it has to be easy to read, and it has to be understandable. And then the fourth objective, ongoing monitoring. Okay, so what are we trying to achieve? Basically, what we're trying to achieve is that if we can demonstrate that we're being efficient, we have an effective workforce, we provide high customer service, we're cost effective, we're engaging with our citizens, and we're being transparent. If we can do all of those and do it very well, then we can say, hey, we're in organizational excellence. Okay, so these for 6. What I call attributes, that's what we're focusing on for organizational excellence. So the next slide is this is how the measures will look. And so you have here's the attribute, what we just showed the last screen, right? So highly engaged, effective workforce. We explain why it's important, okay? And in this case, a high performing and engaged workforce will achieve desired results and more and move the organization forward to achieving its mission. These are our measures. This is the goal we're trying to achieve, and here is the outcome. Now, the reason why that's color-coded is so that when you read it, you can easily see, are we achieving it? Are we on the right path, or do we not achieve? So if it's green, you know we're achieving it. If it's yellow, we're on the right path. And if you saw in someone, we have some red, it means we're not achieving it, and you'll get a thumb down because, okay, the trend's not doing well, so we need to rethink what are we going to do differently to improve that measure. And then here it's very important to describe what the measure is. Does anyone know what an EMOD is? Has anyone heard? Well, except for the insurance, right? So what an EMOD is, that's what insurance agencies use to establish your rates for insurance. If you have an EMOD that's over 100%, that means you have more than average work-related injuries. So your rates are going to be high. If you go below 100%, that means you have less than average. So the goal is always to be 100%. As you see in 2018, we had 80%, which is good. So that means our rates will be going down. So that's where we want to put a little explanation why we are measuring that measure.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is it that you are keying on the number of days lost to workplace injuries instead of just like the number of workplace injuries?
Because you can have an injury and still work, right?
Right.
But if you have an injury and not working, then you're losing productivity.
You're losing production.
Right.
That's why.
Okay, so
You're saying
measuring production as opposed to potential for increased rates.
right.
You're kind of doing both.
Kind of both. Because if you have people who are out at home because they got injured, well, something's not getting done here, right? That means other people have got to pick up the slack or we can't do it. So it's lost productivity. So that's why we think it's important to track injuries with lost days. Because you can still get hurt and still work here. I've had, people tripped, but they could still work on a computer, So, okay. Also, what's important is that you'll notice all our measures are tied into our strategic plan. The board has adopted a 2015-2020 strategic plan, a 5-year plan. where they have established a vision and a mission, so they want staff to move this organization to that direction. So it's important for the measures to tie into the strategic plan. These are just some measures that you can see that are tied into our strategic plan. So for questions for evaluation, so when we start evaluating the measures, these are the questions we ask ourselves. We ask, what happened? Did we achieve that measure? Why did it happen? And how did it happen? And how can we improve? Those are the three important questions I mentioned earlier. So finally, this is the last slide, then we'll open up the questions. But so what's next? As I mentioned, we are very proud of being transparent. And so we will post the measures on our website and on our social media. We'll discuss it publicly like we are tonight. I've already shared this with my staff, so all of my staff's aware of the program and where we're heading. The next step after tonight, we'll share this with the board and possibly maybe the SEPA. We also develop and adopt some policy and procedures to approach the measure and analyze the performance services provided by the district. And then lastly, we'll submit an application to the International City County Management Association. This is what the measures that I'm presenting is based on ICMA's methods for performance measurement. There's other organizations, the American Water Works Association, they measure as well, but it's a different type of measure. This is the one I've been trained on and used to, and I think it's really effective. So in your agenda packet are the measures, and hopefully you had an opportunity to look at them. If there's any measures you want to talk about, please let me know. We can bring it up on the screen and we can talk about it. I didn't want to go to every one of them because I think we'll be here all night. So if there's any in there, please let me know, and we'll pick it up. We'll talk about them.
Scott, did this replace any previous program?
No, this is brand new. It's never been implemented before.
And this is a proposed program, but you've already been collecting the data that you're.
Yes, I haven't. It hasn't been officially adopted by the board. but we are collecting data right now. So with your comments, suggestions, we'll take that to the board, and hopefully the board will bless it, and then we'll on a regular basis put it on the website, and every quarter we'll update it with the data.
What was your staff's reaction to?
I think there were. They support it, but of course, I'm sure there was, oh God, here goes, give me another assignment, right? They got enough work to do, but I believe in this. I think it's very viable for the organization. I think it's important to be transparent and open, and I think it's important for government to continually look at ways to improve and to provide services to the community, and this is a tool that I think it's going to be beneficial to us. Will we get criticism from it? Probably. Like I said, we're sticking our neck out because we're going to show some areas we're not doing as well as we thought we should. But I think it's important for the public to know that.
No, it's good. I've read the attachments. I commend you for bringing this program forward. As you mentioned, it doesn't look like it's easy,
Yeah.
and it will show the scars and everything else.
It will.
But I think it's valuable for the board and the community to be able to see everything.
Oh, thank you. And if there's something, if you didn't have a chance to review all the measures, and there's something, if you want to go home tonight and there's something you want to talk about, let me know. We could put it back on the agenda and we could talk about it. Because I know it's a lot of information, it's a lot of stuff, but I hope you find it valuable. If there's anything that we can do to improve, please let us know. Because like I said, we always want to make improvements. Yes.
I read through this. This is awesome, I think. I have a couple suggestions that you can.
Absolutely. I love it. Yes.
I think it would be useful for people to know how many injuries you had in a period of a year, because I don't know if it's the same for district, and President Shaver could answer this if you can't, is for insurance purposes. I know they look at your experience mod over a period of 3 years.
Yes, that's correct.
And then they average it out.
Right.
And your premiums absolutely go up if you have people missing work because you have a bigger workers' comp claim. But a lot of first aid only injuries can sometimes be eliminated with just safety training and things like that.
Yeah.
So it seems like you guys go above and beyond to train your people and keep them safe. that might be kind of a cool thing to see. I mean, you wanna obviously aim for no injuries, and that's practically impossible.
Yeah.
But it's always nice to see when a organization is working really hard on that, you see the injuries go down.
Okay.
And I think, especially for you guys, with how clean and orderly your workplaces are, just from what I've seen, you focus a lot on your employee safety.
Yes.
And I think that would be like a really good plug for people to see, especially because it's the first line item.
Okay. Yeah, good. Awesome. Well, definitely a good idea.
The other question I had was, it was on page 8 where it talks about like annual maintenance for your different systems and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Where you do the maintenance on, I think like clearing the lines or something is every 18 months.
Yes.
And then there's some things that it says annually.
Yes.
Is it annually calendar year or annually fiscal year?
This is calendar year.
Okay.
This is calendar
I
year.
wasn't sure.
Yes.
I know the fiscal year is what, like July to June.
July to June, yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, I don't think, understand the fiscal year. That's why we want to stick to the calendar year.
Okay.
So we did calendar.
I wasn't sure, because it was talking about something, and it gave like a 70% finish rate as of September, which if you were going on the calendar year, that would be about right. So that's why I was asking that.
But that's a good question. So if you didn't know, then maybe we need to identify that for the public. This is a calendar year, not fiscal year. So, but thank you. So we'll do that. Yeah.
And then the only last comment I had was, I know you already said that you don't want to you don't want to beat your people up for not hitting all the numbers.
Right.
Which I totally understand, because this is a tool to improve.
Right. Right.
But in areas where you're showing maybe the improvement isn't what it should be, I was wondering if you would consider, or if you do plan to tie those measurables directly to specific areas of assignment, like, and make it part of somebody's
Yeah.
job description,
I-
so to speak.
I don't want to be a job description. I can tell you that, you know, we're not going to reprimand people for not hitting the benchmark. But I can tell you, if people refuse to do the program, you know, they say, well, I don't want to do it because I got other stuff. You know, then there's that's a reprimand issue. So I want people I want my staff to be engaged in this program and want to do the program and do it well. And yes, there will be assignments. So like, for example, if we're going to survey the rates to the wastewater rates in the county, I'm going to assign it to someone, and that's going to be an assignment, and that staff person is going to do it. And that staff person doesn't do it, then then there's consequences for that.
Okay,
Absolutely.
because I noticed there were a few items that when you recorded the numbers, in the comments or analysis, basically your numbers were skewed, your results were skewed, just because they weren't being cleared out of the system. They were done.
Which can you be?
3 of them in here. I was zooming through here trying to find them. Where like page 4.
Okay.
Where it says percentage of code enforcement
Yes.
cases regarding trash being stored in public view.
Yes.
It goes into detail about what they're talking about, but then it says the outcome goal has not been achieved due to cases not being closed out in the system within the 10-day response window. Staff has received additional training and expectations. So, and I'm not beating up code enforcement. That's just the first one I saw like that.
Yeah.
I know that there were a few that were like that in terms of just, maybe it was a training issue. They didn't realize they had to have it out on a certain number of days. So things like that are easily corrected, and it does show that there's been improvement.
Yes.
There. You just haven't gotten to the number that you're after.
Right. Right.
That was just my other comment.
Okay,
I didn't know,
got
like,
it.
if you documented training for that, or if you tied, if it was a specific area of responsibility for one person. I was just curious
Well-
if you made that part of their objectives in terms of when you do their reviews.
I see your point. And
That was not to be any
well,
of that, but
and that's-
kind of as a tool to review with.
And the code enforcement is a good example of that, because that is his one of his duties is to make sure that the work orders are closed, right? And so, excuse me,
You said that people.
the code enforcement officer. So Community Member Lester was talking about the measure on code enforcement closing the work orders. certain days, and that is part of his duties. And you're right. So if he's not, he got the training, and if he's still not fulfilling that, then I guess it could get into a disciplinary issue. But that'd be the last measure, last step to do that. But that's a good point.
Yeah, and not even so much disciplinary as just a formalized tool for improvement when somebody's being given their performance review.
Yes, definitely.
Something like that.
Definitely.
Not, take them out back and beat them.
No, of course not. Of course not.
Disciplinary sounds
Yes.
harsh, but
Yes.
yeah.
But I see where you're coming from. Yes. Thank you.
That's it. That's all.
Great. Thank you. Anything else?
Okay, any other comments on the performance measurement program?
I have one on page 3
Okay, sure. Yep.
regarding percent of sewage gallons spilled reach surface water.
Yes.
I was just curious why the standard would go from 25% in 2016 all the way up to 81%.
Yeah,
It seems like such a huge jump.
It's going to fluctuate. It's going to fluctuate every year because that's depending on how many SSOs occurred a year, and then how if the agencies were successful of capturing the wastewater before it goes into the surface waters. Obviously, in 2017, I would imagine 81%. I bet you that was probably from one large SSO.
I thought you had no SSOs in 2017.
Yeah, we did. But she was talking about the outcome, the current goal we're trying to achieve, and we achieved it. So it was less than 81%, and our outcome was 0%. So we achieved it. Yeah. So, but because in 2016 it was 25%, 81%, 14%. Yeah, it's going to fluctuate. That 81% is high. That's really high. It's probably more like a 20 percentile in the future. Yes.
Any other comments or questions? No. So you're looking for a motion to
Yes.
direct
Yes, please.
Okay. So the recommendation would be that Citizens Advisory Committee direct staff to present the proposed performance measurement program to the Board of Directors for their approval and consideration. Do we have a motion?
I move that.
Second.
Discussion? No?
I think it's great.
I think it's great too.
This can
You
only,
did a good job.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
this can only help you. And
Right.
It does all those things you're looking to do. I think it's awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good program, Scott.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the Costa Mesa Sanitary District's 75th anniversary. Consider appointing 2 CAC members to serve on the 70th anniversary ad hoc committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So next year, 2019, will be the district's 75th anniversary. And in our strategic goal, 4.5, it requires the approval of an ad hoc committee that consists of board members, staff, to plan year-long activities to recognize the district's 75th anniversary. The board, in 2013, we had our 70th anniversary. The board did something very similar. They appointed a couple board members, and then board members and staff worked on some activities to celebrate that 70th anniversary. So we're asking the same thing, but this year is going to be a little different. They're asking 2 members from this committee to serve on that ad hoc committee.
When is that presentation being?
Well, I mean, actually, yesterday the board had a study session meeting, and the board approved having a committee member. They didn't appoint any board members yet, but they recommended having an ad hoc committee. And so the next step is to hear from you if you want to appoint 2 of your members to this committee. No date and time has been set yet. That'd be really up to the ad hoc committee on a standard date and time. I do want to mention, though, that the board did mention that the ad hoc committee will probably be meeting in the mornings. So I know that might be tough for you because a lot of you work, but that's because a lot of the board members have commitments in the evening, and so they will probably be meeting in the mornings. But I'm sure that might be flexible. So it'll be the 2 committee members. If you want 2 committee members, the board and staff, and what those activities, I have no idea because that'll be up to the committee to celebrate the 75th anniversary.
Can you speak to some of the things you did for the 70th anniversary and how the ad hoc committee approached it?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. What did we do? We had a lot of giveaways. You know, a lot of giveaways for the 7th anniversary, and we gave those away at city events. I'm trying to think, what else did we do? It wasn't a huge. It wasn't. Let me tell you, it wasn't like a huge part like the city did for the 60th anniversary. Nothing like that. Well, nothing like that. So we didn't have like a big cake or anything like that. But I think a lot of it was. Nolan, do you remember what we did?
Those mugs you have are part of the 7th.
Yeah, I think the mugs were. Yeah, I think it were just a lot of giveaways, right? Yeah, not activities. So, but 75th is a big year. So maybe we can do something different. Yeah.
Is there any idea of the time commitment involved with the ad hoc committee? Do you,
No, I don't.
number
I'm
of
sorry.
meetings anticipated, or
Well, I'm hoping, with 2019 starting in January, maybe we can have a couple of meetings in November, December, and that'll be it. But I guess we'll have to wait and see what the committee wants to do. Yes.
Will the anniversary be next year then?
Yes, 2019. Yes, the whole year. So, I mean, we could, in theory, we could start the celebration in July of next year. It doesn't have to be actually in January. So depending on everyone's schedule. Yes.
I think, from my perspective, Mike, we're going to focus a lot on social media. I mean, I think our staff does a wonderful job with our Facebook page and some of the other connections. I think it's going to be more the tchotchkes that you see. We'll do some of those. We send a lot of folks to like concerts in the park, the fish fry, city functions, so we'll have a presence there. 75 that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I hope I make it 75. That's a pretty significant anniversary. I could see us doing some kind of reception here at the building or something. Nothing gigantic. I mean, I don't want to spend ratepayer money on a big celebration. I'd rather do it as inexpensive as we can, but still get the point across. We're 75 years. We're older than most agencies in Orange County, so we want to at least have a presence. And social media is going to play a big part of that.
Sure.
There's a lot of changes that have been made for the last 75 years, and what this goal of this organization is.
Definitely.
And I think part of what would be interesting is to go back and see how it started and talk about the growth of the organization as well as time passing by. But the organization is not doing today what it was doing 60 years ago.
Very true.
And one of the things we're looking at, 2020 is kind of a landmark year when it comes to the state of California and recycling and goals. So I think celebrating 75 and letting the public know what we're doing and how far we've progressed towards those state mandated goals for recycling and other things, I would see that being a part of it. Just, again, celebrating what we've did. The Historical Society has all kinds, Costa Mesa Historical Society has all kinds of old pictures and documents and things that we could use for something, and I think it'd be.
And people would be interested in seeing, gee, this was Costa Mesa back in 70 years ago, and look what they've done here. And then it kind of indirectly toots the horn of what's going on here.
Right.
It really does. It gives an opportunity to legally toot the horn.
Was this area even called Costa Mesa 70 years ago?
Nope.
No.
I didn't think so. Yeah.
This area over here was part of
Newport?
this was part of Harper over here, I think. Yeah, this was part of Harper and Fairview over in this area.
So,
Santa Ana was
yes.
I just have a suggestion when appointing the two people. I know half of our committee is only on the committee for a year.
Mhm.
We haven't really said who those one-year people are yet, but I imagine we should probably take that into consideration because you don't want to put somebody on your committee that's going to be leaving in the end of May, right?
Is that the end of May?
So, oh, end of April. So it's like less than halfway into your
Well,
anniversary. I don't know if that matters, but.
I don't think that matters. I think, like I said, we can plan for the celebration to begin in July 2019, and we can start planning from November through April while the committee member is still on. Shouldn't be a problem.
yeah, you'd.
The committee member to continue on the ad
Sure, you could. Sure, we could do that. Yeah, we could do
If you
that.
guys decide to do that, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Not a problem. Yeah. So,
Okay, with that being said, does anybody have a huge interest in being one of the two members of this ad hoc committee?
I would like to be on.
Can we nominate people?
yeah, please.
I don't know.
Well, I'll put my hat in the ring. If anyone else wants to do it, we can all have a
Nominate
discussion
Mike
of
Carey and
who.
Albert Graham.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping for a good fight, you know, or argument about it. But, okay,
Awesome.
all right.
Okay, second.
The timing, yeah.
Okay.
Two guys right there. It's already done.
As an alternate? Yeah, okay. That'd be good.
He said he is concerned about the time commitment.
Sure.
But if there's other people besides Mike and I that are interested, we'd be happy to receive some of your time and input with it. I mean, we're not trying to block the thing. Of course.
Well, imagine if somebody had a brilliant idea they want to share with you, you can decide if you want to talk to them or not.
Yeah, definitely. Yep. And I do have to admit that committee will be open to the Brown Act, so that committee will be open to the public, so we will agendize that meeting, so just FYI.
Oh, it will be, okay.
Okay, so yeah. So,
Okay, then motion carries. The two members are Mike Carey and Albert Graham.
awesome. Thank you so much. Yay, thank you. All right.
Okay, moving on to the next agenda item.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is actually for your discussion. This was requested at the last CAC meeting. You wanted to discuss should the CAC send a letter to the Board of Directors requesting permission for you to research board term limits. So did you want to say something about this, President Shaver? Or okay. I thought you
I'll take exception to the word permission. You guys don't need permission. I mean, we've decided, the board has decided to look at anything you guys bring to us. So whatever this committee decides to do,
well, the permission is because it's off it's in the handbook. It's something that kind of out of the purview of the CAC was formed. So yes, you can look into term limits, but according to the handbook, that's why staff's recommending that if you want to do this, send a letter to the board and ask their permission. And if they give you permission, then go for it. But I think the purpose for today, though, is that you're going to discuss: do you want to send a letter or don't you? And I think that's up for your discussion.
I had a comment, Mr. Chairman. I thought Sue, who brought this up at the last meeting, made some great points, but I also thought Secretary Schaefer made a great point with the pretty big change to from at-large to now special districts, voting districts at least. I would probably think that letting 2020 and 2022 play out and see if that gives some variety to the board, as opposed to also seeing if they want to adopt it, which would be like a second big change to their voting process. Seems to have merits, and then if it's something, whether it's this committee or another one in the future, can look at it once we see what the special voting districts kind of do to the makeup of the board. So I, for one, don't feel strongly about seeing if the board wants to go down that road, but that's just my 2 cents.
Okay. So we got one suggestion not to. You don't want to send a letter?
That would be my
So I
suggestion.
was,
I
yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah, I do too.
Sue, you're being awfully quiet, Sue.
Pretty sure, I think.
You know.
We're shooting along pretty good here. We're responsive to you and your needs and everything, and I think we just don't break the clock. I mean, we're
So rock the boat.
don't rock the boat. And if it gets to be a problem, then we ought to address it, but I don't think it's a problem.
I, for one, don't see what the insistence on the term limits. I don't know if, Sue, if you're not satisfied with the sanitary district.
Well, no,
If that is, I just don't.
Everyone else to say what they're gonna say, and then I'll.
I'm saying it. I just don't understand your motivation to insist on term limits. It makes me think that you're not happy with your service.
I wasn't insisting on term limits.
Well, you pressed
it was-
Secretary Schaefer pretty good.
I actually wrote down the questions that I asked her. I looked them up. I read them.
Yeah.
And I thank you, President Schaefer, for coming. I'm glad you came, because I addressed this at the beginning of the meeting and you weren't here.
we got to slow force them in front of us. It might.
But I said that I wished you had come to the meeting, so I'm glad that you're here. Because The questions that I asked her, I understand that you felt they were uncalled for, and I asked her if she would entertain the idea of term limits for board members.
How many times did you ask her
That was
that?
the first question I asked her.
I know, I was sitting right
Okay.
next to you.
And I watched it right before I came back. Now here, I'm trying to answer your question. Do I have a problem with individually, personally, or with the job that anyone on the sanitary board is doing?
I mean, your service, I meant, like your trash
I'm
service.
I'm not even a customer,
Oh,
I'm
they
a
don't-
renter.
oh, okay.
So I don't even qualify for that. I'm looking at the big picture. And what he presented earlier with, like, your performance measurements and the guy you talked about, Cynic or whatever.
Simon Sinek,
What, how, and why.
Mm-hmm.
What General Manager Carroll said is if it's not broken, you break it to get new ideas. And I'm friends with all of these people individually, and I have great respect for everything that they've done in this capacity and out in the community. Never once have I implied otherwise. So I want to get that out there, first of all. That's a big thing for me. But I also think that if you have the same people doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over for years.
Successfully.
For years.
Successfully.
I'm not saying it's not successful. But people tend to run on autopilot. They can. And I will give an example. For me, I'm speaking as a member of this committee, but I'm a resident. That's all I am. I have no power. I'm not claiming that I do.
You do.
Is I wouldn't be okay with somebody being the president for 40 years or a city council member for 40 years. I think that it's important to incorporate new ideas and mix things up. You also don't, at least I don't, want a board, regardless of how successful they are, to be the only ones doing it for 20 or 30 years. And then, God forbid, something happens, and the building blows up, and they're all in it, and nobody else knows what to do. How do you integrate new ideas and, they all are in agreement, which is, on one hand, is a beautiful thing, because I see disagreement everywhere else in the city like that. But I think it's important to see, alternative ideas, and, it was a question.
I think to clarify what we have on our agenda today isn't to go to the board and say we would like to have term limits. That's not what's on the agenda. That's not the agendized item right here. It's requesting permission for the CAC to research board term limits. So it's, I personally don't believe it's an argument that we need to hold right here. I think the discussion item is whether or not we are looking to research term limits. That's what the...
Well, no, I mean, clarify.
Districts even do it. I don't know.
Yeah, again, to clarify, I think that was what we discussed last meeting, is that we want the board to talk about term limits, but what staff's recommending is that you get permission from the board to give you that direction, because it's a special assignment, right? It's a special assignment for the CAC. So according to the handbook, we believe it should be the board should give you that permission to do that. So the CAC, go research that. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the reason for today is, should you send that email? Should you send that email to the board requesting their permission?
And several people here have already said no. And he asked me the question, so I answered it. Like, that's just the way I think. I think any elected, me personally, that is what I think. I think any elected position should have term limits for all the reasons I gave you. It's nothing personal against any of the current board members at all. And you missed this part earlier when I said, if in any way I offended Secretary Schaefer, that was not my intent at all. It came from, I didn't feel like we got any feedback when we were drawing up the districts. So it was shocking and frustrating that the whole board voted unanimously against it when we hadn't gotten any feedback. And you explained at the board meeting why you were doing it which they're under no obligation to do, but I'm just saying that's why before we spend the time to send a letter to ask the board if we can do something, I was merely, and I did put her on the spot, asking her, is this something that you would even entertain, you personally, because I can't ask her to speak for anyone else. And that's where this whole thing came from. So just so you know where I'm coming from.
Let me, first of all, I don't think your questions were uncalled for. If anybody said that I said that your questions were uncalled for, that couldn't be any further from the truth. You have a right to ask anything. You're a ratepayer as well. In terms of Arlene, Secretary Schaefer, I don't think she took any offense. I mean, it was probably a discussion that she wasn't ready for, or whatever. In terms of term limits, you made a statement just a minute ago. Does any other special district do it? I'm not aware of any other special district that has term limits. Mike Schaefer's personal opinion is term limits is a very viable option that any elected board should look at. I absolutely believe that any board should look at term limits. Now, when it comes to special districts as opposed to city or county elected office, to me there's a huge difference. City and county boards, and when I say city councils and things like that, county supervisors, even congressional things, they're more of a broader-based policy situation. They have to make decisions on a whole range of things. Special districts tend to be the closest form of government to the public that there is, okay? If you had term limits, I think you have to think broader than 2 terms. It's taken me, I'm coming up at the end of my second elected term, although I was previously served back in the 90s. It's taken me those 8 years to feel comfortable with the expertise and the technology. We're a focused purpose as a special district. You're not looking at that broader thing that city councils do, for example. We're focused on wastewater and solid waste, and there's a level of expertise and there's a level of thought process that you have to make decisions on those that takes more than a couple of years to figure out. My first 4 years, I think I did okay. Well, the public must have thought I did okay because I got reelected. But it's taken much longer than a couple of years to figure out what we need to do to make sure that we're meeting the purpose that we have. So I think, personally, term limits is something that any elected board should look at. Okay? But you still have to think about the fact that we're a focused purpose and that we have to have that expertise. Okay? In terms of the special, the divisions and all of that, one of the things that I think you were all charged with at the very beginning was, and it's in your term, you're the advisory committee. The board's not going to always, we're not going to always agree with what you guys come up with, and that's just the way it is. So we have to make our own personal decisions. I don't want you to take or think that anybody took any offense to what you said. Maybe some of your cohorts here did. I can't speak for any of them. But I think the board in general, we welcome your open discussions. We wouldn't have started this CAC, or we wouldn't have done this if we weren't open to getting the ideas that you all have. There's a huge gamut of experience and thought process here that we really look forward to hearing from. I can say that for a fact. So these robust discussions are great. I mean, that's why we put you here. So don't think anybody took offense.
Okay, I just want, because I'm not trying to offend anyone, but
Sorry for pontificating.
I endorse your comments. I think that's exactly. We have more time to fool with it. We have more time to debate it. We have more time to make a position. We have more time to make a recommendation to the city council, and that's our duty to do that if we see that they need to do something. And that's the way we need to get their attention.
Your eyes and ears in the public come from a totally different perspective than the five of us have, and we want that. That's why we got this committee going, because we want to hear what the community is saying.
Is there any other discussion on this item? So I think we're looking at. Actually, I'm going to discuss it. I understand the passion behind this. I'm not entirely sure it's our responsibility to direct board in this fashion. I personally support term limits. I agree with it. I think we're going to see this board change in the next several years anyway, both because of district elections and time served on the board and so forth. I think we're going to see changes. I don't know. Do we need to put it up to a vote if we want to?
I don't even think we need to put it up to a vote. I mean, I don't think, nobody has said they're interested in.
I think we need to delay it, just for the reasons stated here, it's premature, when we haven't even gotten into the fact of what we need to do about this or that, and we need to see how that's coming along before we start jumping in to see what the limits are. We don't have any issues here, it seems to me like, where there's a lack of cohesiveness here to try to do the right thing for the city. I don't see that. So if it's not broke, don't fix it right now.
So what I'm hearing is the majority of the committee does not want to send a letter or an email to the board requesting permission to review term limits.
Yes.
Yeah. There's no action. I just want to. We can just. Is that right?
Sounds like the direction.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the discussion, everybody.
Good discussion too.
Okay, closing items. Board or staff comments? Does anybody have any additional comments from the
Yeah,
board?
Mike, I'll throw something out there, just so that this committee is well aware. Were you Indy Wells last week or the week before? Whenever we just attended the California Special Districts Association annual conference. All five of us, and Scott, and some of the staff, and it's really interesting to see how special districts operate throughout the state of California, whether it be a cemetery district or a community. Don't turn your nose up. That we even have one in Orange County. Yes, we do. Wow. Or a community services district or a fire district or whatever. It's something that I wish all of you could have experienced, because it's.
Are they all totally different from each other? Or are they all pretty much similar?
The makeup is pretty similar, with a elected board or an appointed board.
Are they all doing that voting thing where they're going to break up into like what we're doing?
I actually attended a seminar on that a couple of weeks ago at a risk management conference, and yes, Mr. Shankman, the attorney, is looking at special districts
Everywhere.
But it's pretty widespread, but it's not hitting everybody right now. I think if you read Mr. Mosier's comments, he talked about there's a case. The city of Santa Monica fought Mr. Shankman. The judge has gotten all the materials. It's under advisement. They haven't made any decision. I don't think it's going to get overturned. I don't think they're going to change anything. But yeah, all the special districts are going through some of these things. But probably the most important thing the two most important things that came out of that conference were the reaccreditation of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District as a platinum transparency, what's it called?
District of Distinction.
District of Distinction.
Awesome.
There were only 2 districts that received that platinum award.
California?
Yeah.
There's 3.
3. We were one of those. And I
Very
think
proud of
having
that.
this committee doing that, being in existence, helped us achieve that district of distinction. So you're all a part of that, and I know the 5 of us appreciate that. I know Scott and staff do too. But probably the most important thing that came out of that whole conference was that our own Nolani was named the Special District's Employee of the Year for the state of California. She came down and joined us for lunch, and what's really interesting, and you go year after year, you go to these things, and somebody gets an award, and you sit back and you go, what? Why did that person? I mean, when the
Probably saying that.
hey, we're looking at Gina for next year, Phil.
You just got it next year.
Bring her.
But when the lady who was the lady who was the
Nominate their own person.
we nominated her, our
So
staff.
The district nominates somebody that they want in there, and whoever, and then how do they decide who gets it?
There's a lady who's a consultant that decides, and when she started talking about Nolani, it was really sincere, and everybody in that room completely understood why this young lady was the Employee of the Year for the state of California. So we just
Well,
wanted.
that's a nice statement to give.
New car, trip around the world, what did you get?
We paid for her lunch and her husband's lunch.
How about a couple of tickets to the Angel 12?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got those if anybody wants to buy them. I'll make you a deal. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for allowing me to
Thank you.
say that.
Congratulations, Nate. Would you like to have an acceptance speech or any other? Okay, good. Thank you. Are there any other comments?
Acceptance speech. Thank you so much.
Ms. Lester?
Acceptance speech here.
I just wanted to say that I attended, and actually Tom Brenneman did as well. We attended the State of the District last week.
Yes, last week. Yep, last week.
Yeah, I guess that
Last
was
week.
last week. And it was super informative, and it was very well done. And it was there were a lot of important people in attendance. Do you guys have that recorded so people can watch it?
Yeah, is it on the website now?
That's on the website? I'd like to see, I have to be at work, I can't
It
go to
would
that
be
stuff.
so beneficial if your customers actually watched that. I think they would learn so much.
That's why they put it on the
And
website.
I don't know, like, I know most people don't ever go to the website unless they're ticked off about something, or they call. So, I think it would be beneficial, I don't know how expensive it is or what a pain it is, but if you put like a line item on your bills or your emails that you send people.
You don't get a bill from us.
Oh, they don't?
It's in your property tax bill.
Oh, I just got a bill from you.
They could put it on the
You do
website.
get a new
My
trash
property
can.
tax. I just got.
Yeah, we did get
It's
that.
already on, I think,
On the
it's
website,
on the
front page.
website, I was just trying to like
I think
figure out a way of.
one of the
to get people
things.
to go there and watch that.
One of the things that we get input from, and I think people read, is our newsletter, our quarterly newsletter that comes out.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe we could include something in the newsletter, a link to look at that.
And
Yeah, that would be
encourage-
perfect.
Encourage people to watch that, and
Yeah, it was quite a performance.
if you need somebody, well, obviously I don't even really count because I'm not even a customer, but to write something as to why it's so important for everybody to just pay attention to that kind of stuff, whatever.
Very good, thank you. Yes, well, definitely,
It was
definitely.
a really
Well, thank you.
informative, productive program, and I think it would be very helpful to people if they had more of a clue.
That would be it, put it on the newsletter.
She recorded the whole event.
Oh,
Nicely done, Gina.
so she's gonna get the award next
All
year.
right. Are there any other board or staff comments? Staff? Anyone?
I had an experience last week. We'll put it, my son-in-law is pretty high up with Orange County Waste and Recycling.
Hmm.
So
The sanitary landfill.
he invited me to their annual, what they call lunch at the dump. And they go up to Bee Canyon, they have a dump site up there. And, it's a $20, basically a donation, I think it's to United Way is what you're giving your money to. And, they set up a whole bunch of stations all over this area they're in. And you learn, or you can go by and talk to everybody, and they explain exactly what they do at that landfill. And, you know, you got everything from a guy, they have no seagulls up there. this is above Irvine Boulevard, you know, there's a lot of tracks and homes, you know, what. But they can't have seagulls, so they've got birds, like bird guys up there.
Yeah.
I think there's a name for them. They have their predator birds that go out and fly, that keeps the seagull. It's real interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
And
yeah, I
he
heard
has
that.
his whole set of birds up
Mhm.
there. They've got drone guys up there, you know, that they explain to you why they run these drones all over the sites and what information they're trying to get. And, they have like my son, I always wonder why my son-in-law needs a staff of civil engineers and biologists and all these people that work for him. You know, I thought, I said, Doc, man, what do you need this stuff for? You know, once you get up there, you realize that he runs a biologist around. They look at all the land and the animals and whatever's growing to make sure nothing's getting moved up. And I learned that not one bit of trash ever touches dirt in a landfill. No trash touches dirt. So.
What does it touch?
Everything's lined.
Oh, they got like plastic liner in it,
Yeah, but I mean, it's a thick line.
so it doesn't pollute the ground.
Yeah, it never gets.
Oh, that's nice to know. That's good.
So-
Clay and plastic, right?
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah, they've got a whole, and they explain all that too. You get on a bus and you go on, or a van, and they take you up to the actual dump site, and you know, you get to see, watch the guys pushing the dirt or pushing the trash up. Everything gets filled at night, nothing's left open.
What about space?
They've got years of space. They're not even, because in fact, that's the cool part. Having gone on the trips to the MRF, you know, thinking about that truck came to my house and dumped it, went to the MRF and then went there. You kind of put the whole thing in perspective.
Wow.
You know, where your trash started to where it ended
Yeah.
up and what happened in between. You know,
Oh,
it
neat.
wasn't just a truck that hauled up to the landfill and dumped it. You know?
Right.
So anyhow, it was a cool.
Awesome.
they do
That's
it every
interesting.
That sounds cool.
That's
yeah,
interesting.
It really is. I mean, it's about 3 hours of just learning.
Education.
And you learn that there's a whole lot more to those things than just the dump, you know.
Or to put
Wow.
it another way, this stuff that we call trash just doesn't disappear. It's a process
Yeah.
to get it where it is.
Yeah.
And the people who are not involved in it like we are, really never think about it that way. They just pop the trash into the trash can and
That's
set
it.
it out.
Yep.
And actually, they're using their methane, that they're converting, instead of gas, they're converting it into electricity. And they've got a contract with the city of Anaheim, that they're selling it to them. They've got an actual, you know, electric plant up there that's going into the grid. And,
They're creating electricity and then selling it to the city?
city of Anaheim,
Wow.
we've got like a 20-year contract with them.
Wow.
So they're keeping Disneyland running, you know.
Oh, yeah.
The trash dump
That's
is
awesome.
running the rides at Disneyland.
Yeah.
That's much.
You talk about the birds. I don't know if it's still in existence, but there was a landfill in the city of Ventura, and it was fairly close to the coast, so you can guess there were a lot more seagulls. And it was actually right adjacent to a really nice golf course. And their method for dispersing, getting the birds, was every couple of minutes they would shoot off a shotgun blast. So we didn't know that when we were on that golf course, and you hear this gunshot. And what was really interesting is they kept doing it, right? And these seagulls are all over the place, and when the shell would go off, the seagulls would take off. And in about 30 seconds later, the seagulls would all come back in. So they were shooting, and it wasn't some guy with a shotgun. It was a charge that they had whatever they did. But it was interesting to watch. The birds would all take off. Then they would come right back, and then they would take off with the next shotgun shell. So I'm not sure if it's even in
They
existence.
just not sure there's gonna be any further business from those shots, and they getting out of the way, and then it gets a little.
They're
settled.
darn well getting out of the way, yeah.
It was right
So
during
they
your
come
back,
in.
right during your backswing, right?
It might have helped my backswing, Mike.
Yeah. All right. Any other comments before we close this out tonight? Yeah. Hearing none, I'd like to adjourn this meeting of the Citizens Advisory Committee at 7:42. Thank you all for your passion and interest.